The emergency klaxons had been screaming for 17 minutes when the first hull breach opened Covenant 7 to the void. Diana Ross felt the deck shudder beneath her boots as another plasma lance carved through the mining station's outer ring. Her freighter Meridian's Hope was docked at Port 3, and 23 souls were counting on her to get them out alive. Percy, status on those distress beacons. She called across the cramped bridge. Her communications officer didn't look up from his console, fingers dancing across displays that showed nothing but static and rejection codes. 12 coalition frequencies. Captain. No response on any of them. Nearest patrol was the Valiant's wing, but they went dark 40 minutes ago. His voice cracked on the last word. The Krell had come without warning. 3 destroyer-class ships dropping from FDL like predators who'd caught the scent of blood. They wanted the station's processed iridium, but more than that, they wanted to send a message. The outer colonies were unprotected, and the Galactic Coalition's promises meant nothing out here in the darkness between stars. Rita's voice crackled over the internal comm from engineering. Captain, we're losing atmosphere on decks 4 and 5. I've sealed the bulkheads, but we took damage to the main coupling. If we try to undock now, we'll tear ourselves apart. Diana's jaw clenched. Through the viewport, she could see the lead Krell ship, its hull painted with the skulls of previous victims. Weapons fire lit the void like lightning, and each flash meant another section of the station dying. The defensive batteries had lasted less than 3 minutes against the Raiders' coordinated assault. Owen, how many wounded? She asked. Her medical officer's response came from the cargo bay where they'd set up a makeshift treatment area. 16 so far, 3 critical. I'm running out of supplies, Diana. These people need a real hospital. The deck lurched again. Diana grabbed the edge of her command chair as the gravity fluctuators struggled to compensate. Red warning lights bathed the bridge in crimson, and somewhere in the distance, she heard the groan of stressed metal. The station was coming apart. Incoming transmission, Percy said. It's them. The view screen flickered to life, showing a Krell commander in full battle armor. His species looked like someone had crossed a lizard with a nightmare. All scales and teeth and cold predator eyes. He spoke in heavily accented Galactic Standard, human vessel Meridian's Hope. You will surrender your cargo and submit to boarding. Resistance will result in execution of all crew and passengers. You have 5 minutes to comply. The transmission cut before Diana could respond. She looked around her bridge at the faces of people who'd followed her into the black. Percy was barely 23. Rita had grandchildren waiting for her back on Earth. None of them deserved to die in this forgotten corner of space. All hands. This is the captain, she said into the ship-wide comm. Evacuate to the reinforced cargo bay. Seal the emergency bulkheads behind you. Engineering teams, dump the core's safeties and give me everything the reactor has left. Rita's voice came back immediately. Diana, if we dump the safeties, we'll be radioactive scrap in an hour. We'll be dead in 5 minutes if we don't. Do it. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, even in the face of certain death. Diana watched the personnel indicators on her console as one by one. Her people sealed themselves in the most protected section of the ship. She remained on the bridge with Percy, both of them knowing someone had to stay to coordinate whatever came next. The Krell ships moved closer. Sensors showed their boarding craft warming up, dozens of raiders ready to swarm through the station and take what they wanted. Diana had heard the stories about what happened to crews who surrendered. The Krell didn't take prisoners for ransom. They took them for sport. One more distress beacon, she told Percy. All frequencies, all power. If we're going out, someone needs to know what happened here. Percy nodded and began the sequence. The communications array drew power from the dying reactor, broadcasting their final message into the void. Meridian's Hope, under attack by Krell raiders at Covenant 7, Coalition forces non-responsive. 23 civilians requesting immediate assistance. This will be our last transmission, the 5 minutes. Counted down on the tactical display. Diana found herself thinking about Earth, about the orbital yards where Meridian's Hope had been built, about the dream of making a living among the stars. It seemed foolish now. That optimism, Captain. Percy's voice was barely a whisper. Long-range sensors. There's something out there. Diana looked at the display, at the very edge of their detection range. A massive energy signature had just appeared. Something big had dropped from FTL, something that made their freighter look like a lifeboat next to an ocean liner. "Can you identify it?" she asked. Percy's fingers flew across his console. Transponder signal coming through. "It's Captain, it's human. Military designation. Phantom of Orion." The Krell ships were already turning, their weapons arrays swiveling toward the new arrival. On the view screen, Diana could see them powering up for combat. And there, at the edge of the darkness, she saw it. A warship painted in colors that drank the starlight, running dark and silent as it accelerated toward them. The Krell raiders had been hunting prey. They were about to learn they'd become the hunted. Commander Isaac Hall studied the tactical display with the calm of a man who'd fought in 3 wars and survived them all. The Phantom of Orion cut through space like a blade, her experimental stealth systems making her nearly invisible until she chose to reveal herself. And Isaac had chosen this moment very carefully. "Weapon status," he said. Beth's hands moved across the gunnery console with practiced precision. Railgun batteries charged and ready. Point defense grid online. Main cannons at 97%. "We're hot, Commander." The Krell raiders were already trying to hail them. Isaac could see the communication requests flooding their channels. 3 destroyer-class ships, each one displaying battle trophies from previous kills. They thought they were apex predators. He was about to educate them otherwise. "Navigator, plot intercept course, maximum burn. I want to be on top of them before they can coordinate a response." Isaac's voice was ice. Lewis worked the calculations. His fingers steady despite the fact they were charging 3-to-1 odds. Course plotted. 32 seconds to optimal firing range, Commander. The Krell ships were breaking formation. Isaac watched their maneuvers with clinical interest. They were trying to surround the Phantom, using standard pack tactics. It might have worked against a coalition cruiser. Coalition ships fought by the book, all procedure and committee decisions. Human warships fought to win. Target the lead ship, Beth. I want a full spread. Kinetic rounds, maximum velocity. Let's show them what happens when you hunt in human space. The Phantom's railgun spoke first. Tungsten projectiles accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The first Krell destroyer never had a chance to raise shields. The rounds punched through its hull like tissue paper, and secondary explosions bloomed across its surface as fusion bottles ruptured. Direct hit. Enemy vessel crippled. Beth's voice held grim satisfaction. Target 2 attempting evasive maneuvers. Isaac watched the remaining raiders scatter. Their confidence had evaporated the moment their pack leader went down. Now they were prey, and they knew it. One was trying to flee, its engines burning at maximum as it clawed for FTL distance. The other was turning to fight, desperation making it dangerous. "Lewis, pursue the runner." Weapons free on both targets. The Phantom accelerated, her fusion drives pushing the crew back into their seats. Isaac felt the familiar pressure, the weight of velocity that meant they were hunting. Through the viewport, he could see the fleeing Krell ship, its engines leaving a trail of ionized gas. The raider tried to dodge, tried to use the debris from the station as cover. Isaac had been flying combat maneuvers since before this Krell captain had hatched. He anticipated every move, every desperate attempt at survival. The Phantom's point defense systems tracked incoming plasma fire, destroying the torpedoes. Before they could connect, their armor absorbed what got through. 10 seconds to firing solution, Beth announced. The second raider was accelerating toward them now, all weapons firing. It was a ram attempt, a suicide run meant to take the Phantom down with it. Isaac had seen it before. Fear made species predictable. "Beth, split targeting. I want the runner dead first. Save the ramming ship for last. Let them commit." The rail guns fired again. The fleeing Krell destroyer came apart in silence, its reactor going critical in a flash of light that briefly outshone the distant stars. Isaac didn't watch. His eyes were on the remaining threat, calculating angles and velocities. Ramming ship is 10,000 kilometers and closing. Weapons hot. "They're not breaking off, Commander." Lewis's voice held a question. "Let them come. Route all power to forward armor. I want to feel this one." The Krell ship came on like a missile. Isaac could see its hull now, scarred from dozens of battles, painted with symbols of conquered colonies. This crew had killed before. They'd terrorized the frontier for months. Coalition patrols had failed to stop them. They thought themselves untouchable. 5,000 kilometers. Beth on my mark. Wait for it. The Phantom's main cannons had been charging this entire time. Massive electromagnetic accelerators that drew directly from the fusion core. They'd been designed to crack battle stations. A destroyer-class ship wouldn't even slow them down. 3,000, 2,000. Mark. The cannons fired. The Phantom shuddered with recoil, and the Krell Raider simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no dramatic fireball. The kinetic energy was so immense that the ship was converted to plasma in an instant, a brief flash of light and heat that dissipated into the void. Silence filled the bridge. 3 Krell Raiders eliminated in under 4 minutes. Isaac checked the damage reports. Minor scoring on the forward armor, 2-point defense. Emplacements temporarily offline, 0 casualties. Open a channel to that freighter. Let them know we're here to help. Percy's voice came through the Phantom's communication system, shaky with relief and residual fear. Human Warship, this is Meridian's Hope. Are you really Coalition forces? Isaac looked at the tactical display showing the damaged freighter and dying station. Negative, Meridian's Hope. We're not Coalition. We're human. And we don't leave people to die. Prepare to receive boarding parties. We're coming to get you out. He ended the transmission and turned to his crew. Beth, keep weapons hot. There might be more of them. Lewis, bring us alongside that freighter. Damage control teams prepare for emergency repairs. Medical, prep for casualties. The Phantom of Orion moved through the debris field, a ghost ship painted in the colors of Earth's night sky. Behind them, the wreckage of 3 Krell Raiders tumbled through space. Ahead, frightened civilians waited to learn if their rescuers were saviors or a new threat. Isaac intended to show them exactly what humanity meant by the word honor. Sargent and Foster checked her armor seals one final time before stepping through the airlock. Behind her visor, she could see the frightened faces pressed against the viewports of the damaged freighter. She'd seen that look before, on a dozen worlds, in 100 firefights. People who'd heard the stories about humans and weren't sure if rescue was better than death. The airlock cycled with a hiss of equalizing pressure and stepped through first, keeping her rifle pointed down and away. Behind her, the medical teams carried their equipment, while engineers hauled repair gear. The corridor beyond was dimmed to emergency lighting, and the air tasted of smoke and fear. Easy now, she said in Galactic Standard. We're here to help. My name is Sergeant Foster. Where's your captain? A Centaurian crew member pointed toward the bridge with a trembling appendage. I could see the fear in his compound eyes. Her armor made her look like a walking weapon, all plates and power systems. She made a mental note to smile more when she removed her helmet. Diana met them halfway. The freighter captain looked like she'd aged a decade in the last hour. Her uniform was scorched, and there was blood on her sleeve that probably wasn't hers. But her eyes were steady, and her voice didn't shake when she spoke. Captain Diana Ross, thank you for responding. We have wounded in the cargo bay, and nodded to the medical team. Park, take your people aft. Captain Ross, can you show us your casualties? She paused. And then maybe we can talk about getting your ship space-worthy again. Henry Park moved past them with his team, already scanning the corridor with portable medical sensors. The human doctor had kind eyes behind his glasses, and his voice was gentle as he spoke to the frightened civilians, and watched some of their fear ease. Humans might look like armored nightmares, but they treated wounded with a tenderness that surprised most species. In the cargo bay, and found organized chaos. Owen, the freighter's medical officer, had done an admirable job with limited supplies, but the wounded needed more than basic first aid. Park's team moved among them with quiet efficiency, setting up portable trauma units and administering medications that most coalition worlds couldn't afford. Your supplies, Owen said, watching in amazement. This is military-grade equipment. Some of this technology I've only read about in journals. Park smiled while examining a Deltan child with severe burns. Humans have a saying, go big or go home. When we design medical systems, we design them to save lives in the worst possible conditions. He administered a pain blocker and began applying regenerative gel to the wounds. This little one will be fine. The burns look worse than they are, and left them to their work and found Rita in the engine room. The freighter's chief engineer was staring at the damaged reactor, coupling with the expression of someone facing an impossible task. The human engineering team was already unpacking tools. "We can't fix this," Rita said. "Not without a shipyard. The damage is too extensive." Chief Engineer David looked at the coupling and grunted. "Can't fix it pretty, but we can fix it functional. Rig a bypass here, reinforce this mounting. Won't win any safety inspections, but it'll get you to a proper repair facility." He looked at Rita. "You any good with plasma conduits?" Rita blinked all four eyes. Yes, I've worked with them for 20 years. "Good. Then help me route these connections. I'll show you a trick we learned during the Outer Rim campaigns." And continued her rounds, watching her crew work. Everywhere she looked, humans were helping. Not because regulations demanded it, not because there was profit in it, but because people were hurt and humans couldn't stand by while people suffered. It was in their nature, coded into their DNA by a million years of evolution on a world that tried to kill them daily. She found Percy on the bridge, where Lewis was helping him repair the communications array. The young officer was explaining human signal protocols with the patience of a teacher. See, coalition systems use redundancy, which is fine, but it's slow. Human systems prioritize speed and adaptability. We can punch a signal through interference that would blind coalition sensors. The deck shuddered as the Phantom's engineering teams finished temporary repairs to the hull breaches. Through the viewport, and could see their ship holding position, weapons still active, still watching for threats. Commander Hall never relaxed his guard. It was why they were all still alive. Isaac arrived an hour later. The commander moved through the freighter with the economy of motion that came from decades in space. He spoke briefly with Diana, his questions precise and professional. Where were the Krell operating? How long had Coalition patrols been absent? What cargo was the station processing? And watched Diana's expression change as she talked with Isaac. The captain was realizing that humans didn't just show up and fight. They gathered intelligence, they planned, they thought strategically. The Phantom hadn't stumbled on this fight. They'd been hunting these raiders for weeks. "You tracked them here," Diana said. "It wasn't a question." Isaac nodded. "Coalition won't patrol this far out. Too much paperwork, too little profit. So we patrol instead. Humans have a bad habit of caring about things that aren't our problem. The Coalition will want answers," Diana warned. "Human military in neutral space, engaging without authorization. Let them ask." Isaac's voice was cold. "We responded to a distress call, something their patrols failed to do. I'll answer to my conscience before I answer to their bureaucracy." The long-range sensors chose that moment to alarm, and saw Isaac's expression harden, saw his hand move to his comm unit, saw the tactical display light up with new contacts. 8 ships, Krell signatures, accelerating from the outer system. "All personnel, return to the Phantom. Now." Isaac's voice carried command authority that made people move before they thought. He looked at Diana. "Captain, I'm offering you a choice. Evacuate your people to my ship before the fight, or stay and trust human armor, but decide quickly. We have about 10 minutes before this gets very loud." The civilians transferred to the Phantom in ordered chaos, and Marines guided them through corridors designed for war, past weapon systems and armor plating, into the reinforced shelters deep in the ship's core. Diana watched her people disappear into the human warship's belly, then made her choice. "I'm staying on your bridge," she told Isaac. "This is my sector. I need to see how you fight." Isaac studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Your risk to take? Beth, get the captain a spare chair and tie her into our tactical feed. She might learn something useful." The Phantom's bridge was nothing like Coalition designs, where civilian ships had comfortable stations and aesthetic lighting. This was pure function. Every surface served a purpose. Every system designed for maximum efficiency under combat stress. Diana strapped into the observer seat and felt the tactical display feed directly into her consciousness through a neural link. The Krell battle group was spreading into attack. Formation: 8 ships against 1. Admiral Corval commanding from his flagship. The Krell were confident. They'd won battles against worse odds. Coalition ships fought defensively, all shields and evasion. They'd never faced humans who treated space combat like an equation to solve. Incoming transmission, Percy said from the communication station. Diana realized Isaac had brought the young officer aboard as well, giving him a chance to learn. The view screen showed Corval in his command. Throne. The Krell admiral was massive even for his species, decorated with scars and trophies. Human vessel. You destroyed 3 of my ships. Surrender now and your death will be quick. Isaac didn't bother responding. He cut the transmission and looked at Beth. Targeting solutions? 8 targets. Optimal firing sequence plotted. Recommend we eliminate the outer ships first. Force them to cluster. Easier to manage when they're grouped. Beth's hands moved across her console. Railguns ready. Main cannons charging. Lewis called out for navigation. They're moving to surround us. Classic Krell pack formation. They'll try to overwhelm point defense with simultaneous fire from all angles. Let them commit to the maneuver, Isaac said. Beth, I want firing solutions on there. Weapons systems, not their cores. We're going to defong them one at a time. Diana watched the tactical display as the Krell ships moved into position. Saw their weapons charging. Saw plasma torpedoes launching from all 8 vessels simultaneously. The Phantom's point defense grid activated, and the void lit up with interceptor fire. Hundreds of small projectiles creating a sphere of protection around the human ship. The first wave of torpedoes died before reaching their target. The second wave got closer. The third wave managed to impact shields. The Phantom shuddered but held. And then Isaac gave the order. Fire. The railgun spoke in sequence, each shot precisely calculated. Diana watched through the tactical feed as tungsten rounds crossed the distance at velocities that made tracking difficult. The lead Krell destroyer took 3 hits, not to its core, but to its weapon mounts. Explosions rippled across its hull as plasma batteries detonated. Target 1 defanged. Moving 2. Target 2. Beth's voice was calm, professional. She could have been reading a grocery list instead of coordinating a battle. The Krell ships tried to adjust, tried to focus fire on the Phantom, but Isaac was already moving. Lewis had plotted a course that took them through the debris field of the station, using wreckage as cover, using the destroyed habitat modules as improvised weapons. Diana saw it happen, saw the Phantom accelerate toward a chunk of station superstructure, saw the ships. Tractor beams activate. Saw them grab the debris and fling it at the nearest Krell ship like a child throwing rocks. The improvised projectile massed several thousand tons. When it hit, the Krell destroyer crumpled. Unconventional tactics, Isaac explained, noticing Diana's expression. Krell fight by instinct and aggression. They expect their enemies to fight the same way. Humans fight by thinking 3 moves ahead. 2 more Krell ships lost their weapons. Admiral Corval was screaming orders. Now, Diana could see on the tactical feed. The Krell were breaking formation, panic replacing discipline. They thought this would be easy. The Phantom's main cannons fired. One of the damaged Krell ships simply vanished, converted to expanding gas by kinetic energy. The others tried to flee, tried to gain distance for FTL, but Isaac had positioned the Phantom between them and escape vectors. Box them in, he ordered. I want these ships disabled, not destroyed. Someone needs to report what happens when you raid human-protected space. Beth adjusted her targeting. The railguns fired again and again, each shot precise, surgical, taking out engines, destroying weapons, leaving the Krell ships drifting and helpless. Within 8 minutes, 7 of the 8 vessels were combat ineffective. Only Corval's flagship remained dangerous. The Admiral tried one final gambit. He turned his ship directly toward the Phantom and engaged maximum thrust, a suicide run, hoping to take the human ship. With him, Diana felt her breath catch, saw the massive Krell flagship accelerating. Isaac watched it come. His expression never changed. Beth, one shot, center mass, full power. The main cannons had been charging throughout the entire battle. Now they released. The electromagnetic accelerators pushed a solid projectile to velocities that bent physics. When it hit the Krell flagship, the ship's shields collapsed, its armor vaporized. The round punched clean through and out the other side. Admiral. Corval had time to broadcast one final message. Impossible. Humans don't fight like this. You're supposed to be. You're supposed to be. The flagship's reactor went critical. The explosion lit the battlefield. And then there was silence. Diana stared at the tactical display. 8 Krell ships, 7 disabled, 1 destroyed. The Phantom showed minor damage to forward shields and 2 overheated weapon mounts. 0 casualties. She just watched a single human destroyer defeat a battle group that should have overwhelmed it. Captain Ross, Isaac said quietly, "Welcome to how humans wage war. We don't fight fair. We fight to win." Coalition cruisers arrived 3 hours after the battle ended. Diana watched them drop from FDL with mixed feelings. Help that came too late was barely help at all. Commander Valtris of the Galactic Patrol stepped aboard the Phantom with an expression caught between relief and irritation. "Captain Ross, we received your distress beacon. I see you've managed the situation." Valtris's tentacles twitched as he surveyed the disabled Krell ships floating in formation around the human warship. "Perhaps you can explain why a human military vessel is operating in neutral space." Isaac stepped forward before Diana could respond. "Commander Hall, Phantom of Orion. I can explain it simply. Your patrols failed to respond to a civilian distress call. We did." End of explanation. Valtris's skin flushed the purple color that indicated Centaurian anger. The Coalition has protocols. Response times are calculated based on available resources. You cannot simply. Human ships cannot operate outside authorized zones. Your protocols. Isaac's voice dropped to ice. Left 23 civilians to die. Your response times meant arriving in time to count bodies. And as for authorization, I don't recall asking permission to protect innocent lives. Diana saw and Foster and the other Marines standing behind Isaac. Their expressions were professionally neutral, but she recognized the stance. Humans protecting their commander, ready to back his plane no matter what Coalition regulations said. The Krell were operating in this sector for weeks, Isaac continued. We tracked them through 4 systems, watched them raid 3 colonies, waited for Coalition response that never came. So we took action. Valtris pulled up his datapad. According to our records, no distress calls were received from those colonies because the Krell jammed communications before attacking. Standard raider tactics. If Coalition patrols actually visited frontier space instead of filing reports from core worlds, you'd know this. Isaac's patience was clearly wearing thin. Diana found herself speaking before she'd consciously decided to. "Commander Valtris, I filed 14 requests for increased patrols in this sector over the last 6 months. Everyone was denied due to insufficient priority rating. The Coalition failed us. Commander Hall and his crew saved our lives." The Centaurian commander's tentacles writhed in agitation. "Captain Ross, I understand your gratitude, but human military presence without authorization sets dangerous precedents. What happens when other species decide to patrol where they please? Then maybe civilians won't die waiting for help that never comes." Diana's voice was harder than she'd intended. "I watched my crew prepare to be slaughtered. I sent final messages to families who would never see their loved ones again. And your protocols say that was acceptable as long as proper forms were filed." Percy stepped forward from the communication station. The young officer had been quiet during the battle, but now his voice carried conviction. "Commander Valtris, I broadcast on every Coalition frequency. I used emergency codes. I followed every procedure in a manual. And I got silence. The humans responded in less than 30 minutes. Your fleet took 3 hours." Valtris looked around the Phantom's bridge, at the human crew standing behind their commander, at Diana and Percy, at the tactical displays still showing the disabled Krell vessels. Diana could see him calculating politics and procedures, trying to fit this situation into boxes that were never designed for. "I will need to file a comprehensive report," he said finally. "There will be questions about this incident, about human military operations, about file whatever reports you want." Isaac interrupted. "I'll be gone before your bureaucrats finish reading them. The Phantom has patrols to run, sectors to cover, places where Coalition protocols mean people die while waiting for help." The 2 commanders stared at each other. representing two completely different philosophies of protection. Coalition regulation and committee decisions versus human direct action and moral certainty. Diana realized she was watching a fundamental clash of cultures. Valtris left soon after, taking his fleet and his questions. The Phantom's crew began final preparations for departure. The civilians transferred back to Meridian's Hope, now repaired enough for the journey to the nearest Coalition station. Diana found Isaac on the observation deck. The commander stood watching the stars, his expression distant. "Thank you," she said, "for responding, for saving us, for showing that someone still cares about frontier colonies." Isaac nodded. "Humans have a saying, we leave no one behind. Doesn't matter if they're human or Coalition or some species we've never met. If someone calls for help, we answer. It's who we are. The Coalition will make trouble for you over this," Diana warned. "Let them try." Isaac smiled without humor. Earth didn't join the Coalition to follow rules that get people killed. We joined to protect those who can't protect themselves. If that means operating outside authorized zones, then that's what we'll do. Diana handed him a data chip. "My full report of the incident, and a formal request to Coalition Command for human patrol presence in frontier sectors. I don't know if it will help, but it will help," Isaac assured her. "Every voice matters. Every testimony that shows Coalition failures. Eventually, they'll have to adapt or become irrelevant." The Phantom departed 12 hours later, slipping into the darkness between stars. Diana stood on Meridian's Hope's bridge and watched them go. Percy was beside her, and Rita, and Owen. They'd all survived because humans had decided that distance and regulations mattered less than lives. "They'll be back," Percy said. "Won't they? Patrolling, protecting." Diana nodded. "They'll be back. Humans don't abandon territory they've decided to protect. They're stubborn that way." In the weeks that followed, word spread across the frontier. A human warship was running patrols, responding to distress calls, eliminating threats that Coalition forces ignored. Colonies that had felt abandoned suddenly had hope. Raiders who'd operated with impunity started avoiding certain sectors. Diana's report reached Coalition Command, along with 17 others from different frontier captains, all telling the same story. Humans responding when Coalition forces didn't. Lives saved by crews operating outside. Authorization. The bureaucrats argued. The committees debated. And while they discussed protocols and procedures, the Phantom of Orion continued her patrols, continued answering distress calls, continued showing the galaxy what it meant when humans decided something was worth protecting. Because in the end, regulations and authorizations mattered less than one simple truth. When help was needed, humans came. When others ran, humans stood. And when the choice was between following rules and saving lives, humans chose lives every single time.